Welcome to the week one go-to session. This is the first of 4 such sessions we'll have this month every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Thanks to the people who are here. Um, Looks like we have 4 people with us so far. So not the greatest turnout, but that's okay. Most people, the time may not work for them, 7 p.m. Again, every Tuesday evening, Eastern time. Um, but for the people who are here live or the people who are going to watch this after the fact, because we're recording this, and the recordings are always placed in the archives area for each week. So, but yeah, people attend live or watch the recording are in a really good position, because even though all the assignments for this class theoretically can be completed without watching lectures, people who do attend or watch the lectures tend to do much better in this class, because I devote time to talking about the assignments, giving advice on how to complete the assignments. In other words, how to do well on the assignments. And yeah, that's beneficial information. So just count it as a good sign that you're either here live or that you are watching this after the fact. I'm trying to read a comment. Okay. So welcome. I was reading a private comment. Okay, so welcome to week one. Welcome to English composition. Um, Wait a second, that's not me. Hold on. I've been teaching here in the English department for almost 7 years. This January will be 7 years. But for the past couple of months, I've been helping out in creative presentation, right? You all remember creative presentation, because I think all of you should have taken that class before this one. Some people, for some reason, creative presentation is a stick the first time through, but I think for all of you, you took creative presentation, then moved on to this class. Okay, so now I'm back to teaching English again, but we have a brand new curriculum. So yeah, I'm learning the new curriculum, and I'm using another instructor's slide. So that's why there's a picture of a fellow instructor, not me. You can learn about me, though, by going to, so here's the layout of our class, right? So you had a bunch of getting started things to do. But if you click on the Meet Your Instructor activity, you can read more about me. There's a short welcome video for you to watch. Everybody here already signed up over at McGraw-Hill? Yes, no, maybe so? Romeo says something about grade-wise. Do you really need to earn a certain grade to stay in the program? Okay. Um, to Romeo and others, I honestly don't think this is the hardest class in the world. Um, there are a lot of assignments that I think are sort of like gimme grades. Like, for example, let's look at week one. So you have 3 graded assignments. We'll talk about this in a moment. The first discussion assignment. You have a grammar check-in. Here's an important thing to know about the grammar check-in that I kind of learned just today as well, because I had a student who panicked because he didn't do very well in the grammar check-in. Um, you can retake this grammar quiz up to 10 times, okay, and improve your grade. Now, the questions are randomized, so you're not going to be given the same set of 10 questions to just memorize the answers to and eventually get 100. But you get to try this again and again and again. Okay, so please take advantage of that. So if you scored like a 35 or a 40 and think, oh, wow, this is no way to start off, well, take the quiz again and pay attention to the explanations that are beneath the incorrect answers. Okay, because when you answer a question incorrectly, there are explanations beneath it. So please read those through, because chances are you may not get the exact same questions again, but you're going to get the same types of questions again. Okay. Christopher says, is the quiz timed? No. Is anybody else taking the quiz? No. I mean, I didn't create this grammar, but no, there's no option for a time thing. So you can literally take as much time as you want, I would think. So I'm not encouraging cheating, but I guess in theory you could run online and ask someone what the question is. Go into a grammar board. But hey, if that's what you need to do to actually get the answer because someone's explaining to you and you're learning from it, I shouldn't be encouraging that though. Okay, so we're going to talk about these 2 big guys here. The first discussion, which is a really light piece of writing, and also this guy here, okay, the 1.5 assignment, which is also a pretty short piece of writing. That's why I said I don't think this class is terribly difficult. For the grammar quiz, you get to take it up to 10 times to you get a good grade. And these first two assignments of week one, they're pretty short, okay? Donovan says, or use APA for reference. Yeah, we'll get to that for this assignment. All you have to do is create an APA reference for the article you summarize. Again, we'll get to that a little bit later, but this assignment really is just writing a 300 to 400 word summary of the article that you choose. Okay. We'll talk about what summarizing is, but 300 to 400 words is like a little over a page to a page and a half. You can use word counts in Microsoft Word to see where you are word wise. Depending on how many words are on a page, yeah, a page might be around 300 words. So a page to a page and a half. It's a summary. Um, okay, but let me get back to some of my planned remarks. Actually, let me take that back. Let me go back to our FSO platform. The easiest way to get in contact with me, most students know this, is to use the message functions that are already built into FSO. This I check every day. Sometimes students send me emails. I should be better at checking email, but email is something I check like once a day because so few students use it, right? Because FSO has a messaging system built into it. So why send the instructor an old-fashioned email? I still think of email as awesome. Like, I still remember when it came into regular use in the 90s. It was like the greatest thing ever. Wow, you don't have to actually write letters anymore and put them in an envelope and put a stamp on it. You can send anything instantly. But today, especially for today's younger generations, they see email as old school. Email is tedious. Like, why would anybody write an email? There's such faster ways to communicate through a text, through Facebook, Twitter. Why would anybody open up an email um, app or software program and send a traditional email? So I mean, it's fine if you send me an email. Just realize that it's much easier for me to get in contact with you through here, because all I have to do is press here and see, right? Okay. Christopher says he loves using email but hates spam associated with it. Yeah, that can be an annoyance. Um, I still like email. I'm old school though. I'm old. So I can remember things like the arrival of the internet in the early years, where things like chat rooms and email, and it was fascinating. Okay, but enough about me going down nostalgia's lane. Here's an overview. Essentially, we're just going to go over week one stuff. Okay, explaining the week one assignments in more detail. There are some important course policies I'm going to get to in, I believe, the next slide. But here's, you can read through the quotation and this statistic provided. I'm not going to read it out loud, but sometimes people say, why do I need to take this class? I'm here to study recording arts. I'm here to study digital cinematography, mobile app design, what have you. Why in the world do I have to take English? I actually think I don't have to explain this. I don't think I have to read these quotes or share statistics. I think every student knows deep down inside that being able to communicate effectively, both in writing and in speaking, is important. As I like to say, show me someone successful who can't communicate well, right? You'd have to search high and low. Yeah, you might find a rare example, but for the most part, no. When it comes to, you know, elected officials, whether you like them or not, they tend to be bright people who can write and speak. Artists, again, you may not like a specific artist or a certain celebrity, but usually they have pretty sharp communication skills. Again, try to find me a successful person who cannot write or who cannot speak. It's pretty difficult to do. And again, I think students know this. They may harbor bad feelings because their past experiences didn't go too well. They had an instructor who made them feel stupid, or maybe the instructor just wasn't very effective. Or yeah, I mean, I listen, I get it. I'm an English major, but I'm not here to convert people into becoming little English majors. For one, Full Sail doesn't have a program in English. It has a creative writing emphasis, but not a true English major. That's not my design. My design in this class is not to teach you to be passionate about the world of English. This is why you don't have to read poetry or plays or short stories in this class. No, no, no. It's much more basic than that. The goal here is to make sure that everybody, at the very least, has a competent level to move forward. Because, and the reason why I say students know this already is because, yeah, they sort of know. They read things, even if they're not voracious readers. They read sports articles or a feature story on their favorite artist in a magazine or some sort of online publication, and they can tell that what they're reading is well written, and maybe they realize that, oh, my writing isn't up to that level, right? Like they can tell the difference between just in broad terms. People can write well, and people maybe struggle a little bit, and it's fine to struggle a little bit because there's no such thing as a born writer, right? People just don't come into the world, and you either have it or you don't. No, I've seen people who, frankly, people who I kind of thought never could be able to write, and then I see them 10 years later, and they're writing not only perfectly well, they're publishing things, right? So anybody can learn to write. Anybody can learn to improve their writing. Um, it does take more than just these 4 weeks that you have this class. It does take on some level a dedication and interest to improve, but yeah, it's not a born skill. So Romeo says NBA, Young Boyer, Kodak, Black, can't. I don't follow the NBA at all. Okay, athletes, like I said, you can find exceptions. But I would argue, look at that athlete like 10 years in, 15 years in, like usually they've grown in some ways. And for the ones who don't, I mean, that's kind of an exception, right? Um, for the most part, again, successful people can write and speak well. And plus, I would focus much more on the vast majority of people who can than the outliers, the few people who can't. Okay, some important course policies. The late work policy. Okay, so there are due dates. We encourage you to follow those due dates. If it's not uploaded, a 0 is automatically assigned. Don't panic. That's the way the FSO platform works, right? I have the ability to replace that 0. So, for example, late work can be submitted up to 3 days past the due date with a 5-point deduction, which is pretty minor, right? So, yeah, if you don't hand something in on time and don't have a good reason for handing it in late, 5 points isn't that big of a deal. 10 points is a bit more significant, but still not the end of the world. Okay. Late work submitted with documentation for an emergency, sure, I'll consider that. And I'm pretty easygoing. So if you let me know in advance, not at 11:59, 1 minute before the thing is due. If you already know, like, hey, I have to work a double shift all weekend at my job, and could I have an extension? Yeah, I'm going to say yes. Okay. Be careful. Some instructors here at Full Sail are very, very specific about the due dates are the due dates, and you must have documentation, right? Like you better send me an image snap with your phone of your doctor visit. I just don't want to deal with any of that. So just explain to me, right? Or don't even explain. Just to tell me, can I have an extension? And if it's not at the last second, because here's the other thing. You can see my schedule in the instructor welcome area of the activities. So you can see that, for example, Mondays are my work from home day. I am working, but I'm not here on campus. But Saturday and Sunday are my off days. I try to check in. But when I say check in, I mean like once. Like on Saturday, I'll say, okay, maybe I'll check and respond to some messages that they feel super important. But for the most part, I try to treat Saturday and Sunday as my days off. So yeah, if you're looking for an extension at the last possible minute, I'm not going to see it. Okay. So I'm pretty easygoing, just if you ask in advance. And I don't make a big deal about documentation. Okay. Does that make sense? Donovan says there's a difference between successful and competent. Yeah, good point, right? Although Romeo might suggest that certain athletes can become phenomenally successful, even if they're not the greatest communicators. But I don't know, like LeBron James, bright guy, okay, right? Much more intelligent than people think athletes are. Sometimes we have stereotypes that athletes couldn't write their names in the ground with a stick, and that's usually untrue. Okay. Where are we in this thing? Okay, so I just covered late work. This is just a general reminder that writing, we have all different people in this class. Some people who will find the assignments tremendously easy or are already comfortable with writing. Some people who find that we're in different places in our journey. And the writing journey, it never ends. I've been writing for a long, long time. I wish I could say that there was a finish line. Like, I have cracked the code. I know how to write perfectly, or I can always produce great writing every time out. No, you keep growing, you keep changing, you keep learning throughout the entire process. So some people are maybe at a different stage in their journey. Okay, some people might be further along. Um, but in general, I do find that the students can find English class awkward or frustrating simply because, again, they might come into the class with feelings that English class isn't their favorite subject based on past experience, or there are those who like classes where there are definite right answers, right? Like in a math class, you study hard, you take the quiz, you can go work through the equations, you get your grade back. And English is frustrating because it feels so subjective, right? There's someone on the other end determining, is my writing an A? Is it a B? Is it a C? Okay, it doesn't have that kind of finality to it that math or science does. And yeah, I get all of that. To go back real quickly to get away from this, I mean, take advantage of the gimme points. So 10% of your grade is professionalism. Again, I'm pretty easygoing. So unless you do something egregious, like curse at me or curse at one of your classmates, or um, there is a penalty for late work. I think I didn't read that out loud on the slide there, but the 5 point deduction is actually not on your assignment. It's on professionalism. So it's not really that much of a distinction because this is worth 10% of your grade. This assignment is worth 10% of your grade. So wherever the 5 points are taken off, it kind of doesn't matter because it's just 5 points being taken off. Um, but otherwise, yeah, other instructors, again, be careful because some instructors take professionalism very seriously and they'll take points off for a whole bunch of things. I really just want to put hundreds next to everybody's name at the end of the month. Again, if I have to take off points for lateness, professionalism points, I will. Be careful because those can add up. So if you keep handing in work late and are always getting dinged 5 points per day, that can lower that 100 to 90, 80, 70 over time. Okay. But this should be in your pocket, an easy 100%. Again, you can take this grammar quiz 10 times. So try to get that grade as high as possible. Keep retaking it. Okay. Um, and again, even the major assignments, as we'll get into when I explain the first two for this week, are not, at least I don't think, are terribly difficult. Christopher says English has never been my strong suit, but I look forward to changing that. Good. I mean, maybe in another lecture, if people are curious, I can give you general tips on how to improve writing. One of the biggest I'll give you now is just to read. I know that seems silly, but there's a direct. I never learned from grammar guides. Never sat down and studied commas, or it just soaked into me. Okay, I always read, and the rules of writing, and not just the rules, but even like stylistic things, just sort of soaked into me through a sort of osmosis from reading. So if you can force yourself to at least once per week read publishable quality work, so not someone's discussion board post, not something that's clearly written by an amateur, but something that is professional, right? Um, get in the habit of reading. The more you do that, and again, I'm not asking you to read Moby Dick. I'm not asking you to read Shakespeare, which would actually be both be terrible things to learn from because we don't speak that way anymore. But the more you read, yeah, the more the rules just sort of soak into you naturally. Um, anyway, what I was trying to say is that you do have a number of activities that are easier than you think, and even for the main assignments, my opinion is they're not tremendously difficult. Okay, in short, there's no reason why everybody shouldn't earn at least an A or a B. Okay, students who complete all activities, even if they get a specific grade here and there that they're not crazy about, usually things average out to, again, an A or a B. Okay, people get into trouble when it gets into things like missing assignments entirely, getting dinged repeatedly for late work. The biggest, though, is just missing assignments entirely. Okay, getting a bunch of zeros from which you really can't recover. That's what stops students from passing the class, not the actual difficulty level of the course itself. Yeah, Christopher, we have a number of students who want to maintain their perfect grade. Um, Students don't believe this, but they're in control of that, not me. That seems ridiculous because I'm the one ultimately grading. And as I just said earlier, English feels more subjective than just answering a bunch of questions that have strict yes or no or correct or incorrect answers. But you're in control more than you think. Okay, I play a role, but not as big of a role as you believe. Attending these lectures helps. Every assignment, by the way, I'm getting ahead of myself, so I apologize if it seems confusing. I hope it doesn't. But every single assignment we have comes with examples. So at the very least, you can study the example. Okay. And obviously, you're not going to borrow wording because that's plagiarizing, but you can definitely look at the structure, the logic, or even look at the assignment and just get the gist of, oh, okay, I see this is what I sort of need to do. Um, so anyway, let me try to get back on course. Okay, so yeah, English class can feel awkward, but hang in there, okay? And yes, send me a message, reach out to me. I'm here, I'm a real person, I'm speaking to you now. Online classes can feel distant, especially since about 70% of our students are online students. So out of curiosity, where are people right now? Like literally, where are you living? Where are you watching this session from? I'm in Orlando, Florida, which is where Full Sail University, the physical campus, is. Um, for technical help. So I think it was Romeo asked me, he was having questions with his iPad. I can't help with that because really I'm not a tech expert at any level. So FSO support. So take a screenshot or jot down this number. It's also in some of your materials, like on the FSO platform. So this is not the only place this number appears. But yeah, reach out to them, obviously with anything that relates to FSO or Full Sail, but you can feel free to reach out to them with questions about Microsoft Word or your iPad, because these are tech guys who probably can help you with most questions. Okay, so someone's in Alabama. Other people, I guess, don't want to disclose. Okay, Donovan's, you're a student here at the physical campus in Orlando. I'm taking it. Um, yeah, and if you watch my welcome video, I've bounced all over the place. So I was even in Alabama also briefly, Tuscaloosa. So, but what was my point? Oh, yeah, that we have 70% of our students taking this online, and that the course, yeah, you can feel detached because you're not showing up every day with your book bag and sitting in a seat and seeing me stand at the front of the classroom. You don't get to see your other classmates. Um, some people, and I'm not criticizing anybody's work habits. So if you want to mostly put work aside until the weekend, you can't always do that because, again, some things appear midweek. You can do so. But yeah, you're not showing up necessarily every day. Um, there are cool aspects to that, the freedom of it. The future in education is clearly heading down the path of more online learning, more distance learning. But one of the complaints I hear most often from students is, yeah, it can feel, even for the students who are here on campus, why is this class online? Why can't this be in the classroom, right? I'm here in Orlando. Why am I taking this online? I get it, okay, because of all those things. It can feel like you're on an island and the class isn't entirely real and you're just checking in once in a while, but it is real. And I'm real and I will respond to messages. I can set up phone call appointments, all that stuff, okay? Donovan says he uses Discord to reach out with fellow classmates. Okay, cool. I'm supposed to use, oh gosh, it's not Discord. It's something else. I can't remember it, but I don't use it. That's why I can't remember the name of it. It starts with an S and it's not Skype. Uh, Another instructor just reached out to me and says, I could submit you these materials through this program we're all supposed to be using, but and I'm not a technophobe. It's just that ever since we've joined the social media generation, I've not kept pace. Before that, I thought I was semi with it, but yeah, I'm officially becoming an old man. No, it's not Snapchat. If anybody's curious, I guess I could find out for you, but let's keep moving forward. Okay, so let's talk about the course. So every week you can basically count on a lecture. You're here for that. Great. If you can't make a lecture, it will be recorded. There will be readings. Everybody signed up at McGraw Hill, I hope. Here's McGraw Hill. Okay, here's our class, October. And if I go into the student view, so I'm going to show how things look on your end. Okay, you can see it's like neatly organized. Like here are the readings for week one. And even though it seems like it's a tremendous amount, it really isn't. Because if I click on, for example, this guy here, right? Like like that's it. There's a picture, there's basically this paragraph here, these two paragraphs here, and that's it for chapter 1A. Um, I also have to be careful how I say this, but I am okay with some skimming, or what I like to call reading for gist, meaning you're not just saying, oh, well, he means skim, so I'll just like look at this word and look at this word. No, I mean, obviously take the time and read. I think that's the preferred thing, but if you can come away from each page with the gist of what's being talked about, that's what's most important. And for this week in particular, for example, there's an entire chapter about summer. I screwed up. How do I get back in? There's there's a chapter on summer. See, now I'm going through the entire textbook. You know what? Here we go. That's where I wanted to be. So one of this week's major assignments has to do with summarizing. So here's an entire chapter on summarizing. Okay. So like what's covered here, and it's a bit longer. Okay, but pretty much everything here is 90% of it is going to be important, especially this content here. We have additional help to give you for summarizing that we'll get to, but you do have a chapter on summarizing. Okay, but anyway, my point is that each week's readings are nicely contained for you by week. Okay, so try to get through it. If you do some occasional skimming, or make sure that you're getting the gist of what each chapter is talking about, awesome. Okay, that's what's most important to me. So where were we? Okay, so yeah, every week lecture readings, a weekly discussion, and a weekly assignment. Really, that's it on repeat. Here's a view of kind of the whole month. So this week you have some additional stuff like the getting started activities, getting signed up at McGraw-Hill, uh, lecturing for lectures, which obviously those of you who are here have already done, because how else could you be here? There's a grammar quiz you can take up to 10 times. Week 2, just normal assignments. Week 3, same thing, but the grammar quiz returns. And then week 4, there's an extra credit assignment. I'm not going to talk about that now because we're not in week 4 yet. But yes, there is an opportunity to earn extra credit in week 4. Okay. Again, it's a pretty streamlined course. The English department completely revised the curriculum, and we hope we've done so in a way that's simple, that allows you. This week, again, we'll get into it, but you're going to summarize an article. So not much for you to do in terms of like your thoughts. But next week, you'll have an opportunity to say more, for your thoughts, your ideas to come into play. So yeah, the goal is on simplicity, allowing your voice to come through. Okay. But yeah, simplicity is a big thing, because in the past, the curriculum was a little bit tangled. Terrific assignments, but wow, we had to spend a lot of time explaining them. Hopefully that's been solved. Um, okay. Yeah, your textbook, you already know this. I already covered this, so I'm going to skip that. Let's talk about week 1. So the very first assignment, this is a discussion board assignment, okay? So there are 2 parts to the discussion. First is what you actually have to do and post, which is a tale of 2 bios. So here, let me go into the activity itself. I think I get going this way. Okay, yeah. So you can read the instructions on your own, but it's really simple. You're going to write your own bio, okay, your own biography, your own single paragraph, but you're going to write it twice, that introduces yourself. But here's the thing. So, okay, write a brief biography where you describe yourself, your interests, and your goals at Full Sail and Beyond, and you're going to write it twice. Version 1, you're writing for your peers. Okay, so this is you explaining yourself to a fellow classmate, your buddies in your neighborhood. Okay, um, there's a suggestion here to consider social media, right? Like, how would you present yourself on Facebook if you had to introduce yourself in a single paragraph? Label this biography for peers. Okay, and this biography should be written in first person. Okay, then you're going to write a second version of your biography, but this one is written for an entire different audience. This is for a professional audience, such as your program director, your boss, or a website where you are introducing yourself to potential clients. In other words, one bio for just family and friends, people you know well, one bio that you could send out, let's say, as part of your job materials. Okay, does that make sense? Donovan, did you take this class in 2017? And your professional bio should be in third person. Okay, and you're going to post both versions to the discussion board. We strongly recommend that you first compose in Microsoft Word so you can catch spelling errors, and then copy and paste those two paragraphs into the discussion board. And then you have to respond to one of your classmates' posts. Okay, and you have an example. Now, before I show this example, let me show my example. So I've written two paragraphs. One is written in first person, meaning I use the word I, and it's written for, friends, people I know well. I'll read it out loud, even though that's not the most interesting thing in the world, but because it's a long paragraph, if I ask you to read it on your own, we're going to have about a minute of dead air. So let me just read it quickly. I write, "Hello, campers. My name is David. I am a teacher. I've been here at Full Sail for nearly 5 years. I wrote this a year ago, so that should actually say 6+ years. And before this, I bounced around a lot. I was born in Chicagoland, but I've also lived in, take a deep breath, Galesburg, Illinois, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Athens, Ohio, Palma de Mallorca, Spain, Columbia, Missouri, and now Orlando, Florida. My hobbies include competitive knitting, matzo ball juggling, and yelling at small children." Okay, that last part is a jest. "I'm passionate about all things writing related. I earned my bachelor's degree in English, fiction writing emphasis from Knox College, and I earned a master's degree, again in English creative writing, from Ohio University. I even started working toward a doctoral degree, but then my mother said, 'You're 35 and still in school?' And so I entered the workforce. In my spare time, I play piano, marathon watch films and television shows, and read lots of books. Serious stuff like literary fiction and political stuff, but my guilty pleasure is page turners. The Twilight series, the occasional sci-fi or fantasy novel, stuff like that. Oh, and I watch a lot of sports. I'm a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, and even though I used to follow the NFL, I now know nothing about the league because I only watch college football." Now, what are the signs, even if they're obvious? Take time in the chat to explain to me. What are the signs that this is informal, meaning it's down to earth, meaning I would not send this out as part of my professional materials to a job interview? Where can you see that? Either in terms of specific words or specific lines. You don't necessarily have to type out the entire line, but where are obvious moments that tell you that this is not written for example, my boss? Um, Christopher says, should they be in two separate posts or in one single one? Oh, that's a good question. One single post, okay? Because it will get confusing if one of your bios is in one place and then a couple other people post theirs on the board and your second bio somewhere else. So yeah, put them in the same post. Christopher says, take a deep breath. Right. So instances in this bio that show you that it's informal. Yeah, things like this, right? I interrupt the sentence with two dashes. I was born in Chicagoland, but I've also lived in, take a deep breath, Galesburg. Stylistically, it's fine. It's grammatical. I wouldn't say it's like insulting. It's not slang, but it's probably not the way I would write for a professional bio. Other people want to point out obvious instances where this is an informal bio. Again, I don't want to belabor things. If it's too obvious, just tell me so. But it's even here, like the simple word, oh. Oh, and I watch a lot of sports, right? That's like a conversational thing. Oh. Here I'm using it stylistically because I want it to read informal. I want it to almost read like speech, but still following the grammar rules. I tell a joke, even if it doesn't make people laugh. These are not my true hobbies. I'm not into knitting, certainly not competitive knitting. I don't spend my time yelling at small children. Right? Donovan says it's a monologue. It has qualities of that, sure. Right? Even the introduction, "Hello, campers." Like, that's not how I would send out my bio. for, let's say, job materials. Here's my professional version. And again, your professional version has to be written in third person, meaning you're not using I. So even though it seems weird, Romeo is going to refer to himself. Okay, so what's Romeo's last name? I'm trying to scroll for one of his. I'll just see Christopher Walter. So Christopher Walter is currently studying blah, 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 right? So it may seem weird, but this is what it means. So this one just says David Sussman has been teaching college level courses for nearly 20 years. He holds degrees in creative writing from Knox College and Ohio University. Previously coming to Full Sail, David has taught at institutions in Alabama, Illinois, and Missouri. Currently, David teaches English. I could say he. He is third person. Currently, he teaches English composition at Full Sail University. He is a committed educator who is passionate about writing. In his free time, David enjoys playing piano, viewing films, reading books, and watching his two favorite sports, baseball and college football. Same information. Exact same information, right? But it's, first of all, it's half the length. But it's written in third person. It eliminates jokes. It eliminates talky things like take a deep breath or hello campers or oh, right? This is the professional bio. Now, this probably should maybe be the example that's included in the activity itself, simply because it's not only an example, but it's something you get to see about the instructor. But because there's such a drastic shift between my two paragraphs, which I kind of like when there's a clear difference, okay? Um, you have another example. And plus, hey, multiple examples are great. So here's the example you get to look at. Okay, I'm not going to read these outlines. You can quickly scan them here. Again, you have this, but one's written in first person. Hi, everyone. My name is Carly, and I am majoring in sports marketing. I'm totally obsessed, right? Language, totally obsessed. That would not appear in a professional bio with all things Big Ten football. So she and I have that in common. We both love college football. Okay. And here's the other paragraph. So, and because these are about equal length, yeah, this is the example you have in the activity itself. I'm worried that my example that we just looked at might encourage people. I think I closed it. Might encourage people to write one really long paragraph and one that's half length. That's not a requirement. It's just one is written towards friends, family. One is written for professionals. I'm not going to say too much more. Does everybody get the gist of what's being asked for this assignment? Because I think it's really basic. But if I've missed something, please tell me. Are we all good on this? I think Christopher maybe asked the most pertinent question, which is, do we post the two bios in a single post? Yes. Okay. Christopher says, seems simple enough. Yeah, it is simple enough. The biggest thing you have to focus on is making sure that you truly are following the instructions, right? So one bio written to family and friends, another bio written to professionals. Um, Proofreading for spelling and grammar. If you use Microsoft Word, you can use those tools that are already built in, like grammar and spell check. You can use an online tool like Grammarly, which I've never tried, but I see it on television commercials. There are other online tools. If you just do a Google search for like grammar checker, you can. But yeah, it's a pretty simple assignment. Okay. Actually, just out of curiosity, actually, I think I have to go in a different way. Bear with me for a second. I'm just curious. Has anybody posted anything yet? Yeah, to go in. Oh no, that's creative presentation. I'm sorry. So many classes. Okay, so week one discussion. I don't. Mm, there we go. Okay, so Jody, I hope you watched this in the recording of this lecture. But yeah, it's please just cut and paste the actual paragraphs into the discussion. And actually, I'm going to take a time to comment on that because what happens is people um, then imitate the example. So I'm so panicked, I'm going to do it right now. The J doesn't work on my keyboard, so I have to do this goofy thing. Okay. And Jody, I apologize. I'm not calling you out. Okay. I'm sure you've done the assignment perfectly well. I'm just taking a moment to please copy and paste the text of your 2 paragraphs directly onto the discussion board. I'm not this bad of a typer. I hate the MacBook keyboard. It's so shallow. I feel like I can't get a grip on the keys. Okay, so there we go. That's how panicked I am, because I'm telling you, and again, Jody, I apologize. You didn't do anything super wrong. It's just that even during this lecture, I'm going to point it out so other people don't do the same thing. Um, okay, yeah, some of you might be in different sections. I have 3 classes, so in some of your discussions, some people might have already jumped in. So you're going to post your 2 bios directly to the board. You also have to respond to one other classmate. Now it says to do so using the RISE model. You should have been introduced to the RISE model in a previous class. Have you? Yes, no? In psychology of play? Yes, okay. For effective questioning, those of you who don't remember the RISE model, I'm surprised we don't have the RISE model up here for you to click on. Or is it contained in this video? There's a video for you to watch as well. But the gist here is that, yeah, you have a 100-word minimum, okay? So you can't just get away with saying, nice job, and that's your response. You have to type at least 100 words. 100 words is not terribly long. It's like a medium-ish, shortish, actually more like a shortish paragraph. Like if you were to write 4 decently length sentences, that will probably get you to 100 words. Things to focus on, certainly you can focus on things positive. You can also give direct feedback. For example, it would have been fine to tell a student, like, in addition to other things, don't get me wrong, hey, be sure to copy and paste your actual paragraphs onto the discussion board instead of just the file. Okay, because the thing is, it eliminates steps. When people only submit a file, it works perfectly well, but people don't click on it because people like things that are already there for them to see. You could also point out things like, well, again, obvious things. So if a person has written both paragraphs in first person, that's an issue that the writer probably needs to hear. Um, or if you don't sense that much difference between the 2 paragraphs, like both are reading very formally or both sound too informal, you can point out anything as long as it's helpful, interesting, thoughtful, okay? And you're hitting 100 words. So sure, if you're familiar with the RISE model, go back to it, remind yourself of what it includes, or write at least 100 words that contain thoughtful, helpful, useful information for the person who posted. Okay. Let's see. Donovan says we'll have to pull up the diagram, though. Yeah. So again, I'm not using this as an excuse, but I'm playing catch up somewhat because I've been teaching creative presentation the last 2 months instead of the new English curriculum. So I haven't checked out this video yet. So it says mission briefing instructions. Has anybody watched it yet? Is the RISE model covered in here? I say, okay, Donovan's provided a link to the RISE, so people are here. You can do that. What happens if I click on it? I mean, I'm sure that even people, if they type, I guess I could try it out myself. RISE model feedback, right? Like even doing that will get you to the RISE model. Okay, so if you need a refresher, there it is. Let's talk about the other activity that you have to do for the week. And you know what? I'm going to get away from the slides. This always happens. I spend more time not filibuster, but talking. And I try to keep these sessions to an hour or less because over an hour, I start to lose people. Okay, where am I? So week 1. Okay, so we've talked about the grammar quiz you can take up to 10 times. We just talked about the tail 2 bios. The other guy is this one, which is due on Sunday. Sunday. Oh, I just realized the discussion. Yeah, October 2nd. That's tomorrow. So people need to get moving on that. Okay, so the main assignment for this week, the 1.5 assignment, called Pop Culture Bites. You will choose one of these 5 articles. You can choose your own article as long as the topic is relevant to your degree, program, or industry, and it gives further information about how long it should be, what kind of source publication should come from. Um, I strongly recommend reading, at least scanning through these five and choosing one of them, simply because it's easier because we sort of pre-approved these five. It doesn't mean you can't suggest your own article, but yeah, I strongly recommend letting me look at it first to see if it will work because you're going to be using this article all month. So we found five that work pretty well. Okay. Um, and your task is just to read it and summarize it. That's it. Okay. So read the article carefully and then write a summary of the article, which means identifying the article's thesis, the main points supporting that thesis, and the key details that are necessary to understanding the article's claims. Okay. So some of that language might be, this was just another example of another person's two bios. I'm going to skip past that. I'm going to skip past this too, even though it would lead to interesting conversation, like where in life have you had to think about your audience in terms of how you speak. But I'm going to skip that if it's okay and get into the second main assignment, which is what I've just talked about. Okay, so you're going to choose one of those five articles, or you can choose your own, but please, please, please let me take a look at it to make sure it's going to work okay, because you may choose an article that I already know isn't going to work well, or doesn't meet the criteria. Okay, read it critically, and then write a summary. Okay. Um, this is based on. Oh, we'll get into these details more. Here's the gist. If you're unsure how to write a summary means you are reducing the article to its essence, okay, in a way that a perfect stranger would understand its thesis. If you're not sure what a thesis means the article's main arguments, okay? So if you had to boil it down to a single sentence, and it's usually stated in the article. So I'm going to help you out a little bit. So let's take a look at this article here. Why we should learn to stop worrying and love the blockbuster franchise. As you can see, there's one about video games, there's one about film, there's one about the Harry Potter books, here's one about music. So we're trying to give a pretty decent spread. We have a lot of people studying music, a lot of people studying video game design. If you're in something like mobile app design and you don't want to respond to any of these five articles, that's where you might try to find your own article. But again, let me see it first. So let's take a look at this article. It's called Why We Should Learn to Stop Worrying and Love the Blockbuster Franchise, which is a play on a famous title, the 1960s film Dr. Strangelove, which was called Dr. Strangelove with the subtitle Why We Should Learn to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb? I can't remember. Nuclear bomb, atomic bomb. Anyway, that was the gist of it. So he's playing off of the title of a famous film, the Stanley Kubrick film, Dr. Strangelove. Okay. In general, your article's main argument is going to be found early on. Okay. Because most writing follows this pattern. Here, let me get rid of this. Let me open up this. Most professional writing is going to have some sort of introduction. Then it's going to have supporting points. Let me copy this. Okay. Not just one supporting point, but several. And then there will be some sort of conclusion. Okay. Professional writers, publishable quality writing almost always follows this. There's going to be some sort of introduction. There are going to be supporting or main points made throughout, and that's going to conclude somehow. Why is this important to you? Because a summary means capturing the article's main point, which is usually found early on in the introduction, identifying what the main points are, and being able to describe them. Okay. So I'm not going to read all this out loud, but this is essentially an introduction paragraph. Okay. Summer movie season is fast approaching. Then he mentions how The Fate of the Furious is setting box office records. You can tell that this comes from a few years ago, okay, to 2017. In the coming months, we'll see sequels, Pirates of the Caribbean, Transformers, Cars. And he mentions how this provides more than enough fodder newspaper laments about how Hollywood is out of ideas. In other words, the typical complaint that Hollywood all it does is churn out sequels and more franchise films, and we're getting tired of this, and it's a clear sign that Hollywood has run out of ideas. But what if we took a different approach this summer? And here's his main argument. This is what he's going to focus on for the rest, using further main points, examples. What if we viewed the Hollywood franchise era in which we live as an opportunity to reflect on the passage of time? Right? Like, there's his thesis. There's the main gist of what this article is about. We need to stop complaining, reducing sequels and franchise films to just another piece of Hollywood garbage. What if we took a different approach? What if we, okay, so there's his thesis, his main idea. So yeah, don't get too confused about the wording. You see the word thesis, you can replace it with what is the article's overall main idea, or what is its overall main argument. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I have something else that we need to look at. Reading strategies. Preview the reading. Okay. So scan its title, scan the reading itself. I often say that previewing the reading, I just recommend reading it, but reading it the way you would read anything. Okay. So you're not necessarily looking to critique it or analyze it. You're just reading for, it's like a one through. It's like you're almost reading for gist. Okay. This one I'm going to skip because it's a little bit confusing. Yeah, read it slowly. Especially, I mean, I'm fine with a pre-read or a one-time read, but then eventually, yes, you do need to read it with care. Because again, don't get confused, okay? A summary, in essence, and you do have a chapter about this in your book, the assigned textbook reading. But a summary means you are going to reduce the article to 300 to 400 words, so about a page or a little bit longer, so that another person, a perfect stranger, would understand what the article is about. Okay, so read it slowly, underline if you're comfortable with that, or highlight any things that stand out to you as main ideas. Okay, reread it. Here it says reread for any parts you weren't sure you understood the first time. Sure, but I also recommend rereading it because you may not pick up on all the main points made the first time. Okay. And then your task is to summarize. This is your explanation of the material covered in the article, written in an order that makes sense to you. For most of you, it's almost always going to be kind of like top to bottom. And you have an example. So I'm sorry for jumping around so much, but if you scroll down, you have an example. Okay, so Jane Smith, that's not really the author's name. We're protecting the innocent here. Summary of The Big Bang Theory is better at portraying geekdom than the haters admit. Okay, so there's summary of title of the article. Author's name. Noel Murray's article is a response to the recent conversation, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read it all out loud, okay? His argument is that the show, despite its faults, generally transcends or rises above the stereotypes upon which it is built, especially in terms of normalizing nerd culture or gender representation. So this is what the article is focused on, okay? And then Murray begins by addressing how the show is effective. From this, he shifts to the important role women play. And essentially, it's not that you have to go through every piece of evidence in the article, but again, you're nailing what the article is essentially about, what its main argument is, and then taking us through the main points, the main evidence. And yeah, for most of you, you're going to follow a similar structure. Okay. Beginning at the beginning of the article and taking us through the main points as you see them. Does that make sense? Again, you have a chapter on summarizing in your textbook. You have an example here to study. Finally, I have a list of do's and don'ts. Okay, so let me get rid of this. No, I don't want to save that. Okay, so here's some summary writing tips. If you want to do a screen capture, you can do so. You can return to this because it's going to be recorded, so you can just fast forward or skip ahead to this part of the video and stop the screen. But here's things that you should do. I know it looks like dose, but that is actually how we make the plural form of do. Do's. Include the author's main claim, argument, in other words, thesis, the most important main points, and the most important examples. Again, we're reducing the entire article to something that a perfect stranger could read and understand what the article is about. Provide an accurate, concise view of the entire article. Okay? Again, a perfect stranger should understand what the article is about. But notice, it's accurate and concise. It's an overview. Okay? Write in third person. So no I. I think the thesis is, or I believe the author's first main point is. No, you're going to write in third person. You can see how the bio is in some ways connected to this assignment, okay? So one of your biography paragraphs is written in first person for family and friends. The second one is written in a more formal language, because that's the language you're going to use for this assignment, okay? So you're going to write in third person. Discuss the author's ideas in your own words. Entirely in your own words. Don't feel pressure to give an exhaustive paraphrase of every sentence. In other words, you don't have to you don't have to explain everything. If you're explaining everything, then they might as well read the article itself. Okay, and a summary should be concise. Don't just cherry pick one interesting point that stands out to you and ignore everything else. Okay, again, it's about coverage. That's what summary is. In the real world, you find summaries, executive summaries. Okay, so for example, a mid-manager in a company might be assigned the task to write a report and give it to his or her higher up, her boss. And it begins with an executive summary that summarizes the entire report, because sometimes it's useful for the reader just to understand, oh, okay, so this is in its most basic terms what I'm going to read. He's going to read the report in full, but first there's a summary. Okay. Number 3, include your own I'm sorry. It's don't include your own opinions on the issue or evaluate the author's ideas. This comes next week. Next week you get to evaluate the article you read. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? What are your thoughts on the article? But this week you're just summarizing. Okay? We can't begin to respond to something unless we know what the article is fully about. So the summary is a chance for you to practice your writing, but also to show me that you understand the article you just read. You can identify what its main overall argument is and what its main points are. Do not quote from the article. Okay? I underline this because it's important. It might seem tempting to just say, well, I could just take this chunk of text here and put it in. No. Later we'll talk about being in dialogue with the article itself and how to do that. But for this week, the summary should be entirely in your own words, and that means entirely. So you can't take a sentence from the article and just replace every other word. Okay? You should be able to sit down and write a summary, a detailed overview of the article, completely in your own words. Let me see. Am I missing anything in the chat? Christopher says so. It would be a bad idea to copy and paste half the article. Yeah, if you mean as your summary, yes. There should be no copy and pasting of the article. Your summary is entirely in your own words. Do I still have the example summary open? Or did I close it? Yes, I can tell you're joking, right? So Jane Smith here. This is entirely her own words. Okay. Right. She's explaining what Murray is saying in this article. That's what you need to do with your own article. If anybody is nervous about summarizing or feels that I didn't explain it clearly enough in this lecture, or you still have questions after reading the textbook chapter on summary or looking at this example, which you have, every single assignment in this class comes with examples. Just reach out to me or have me take a look at what you've written so far. Okay, I can definitely do that before you hand something in. Again, don't wait until the last minute before something's due for me to do that, because I may not be online. I may not be checking online for messages. But you have lots of tools at your disposal. Okay, and then you have a rubric that shows you how things are graded. What do you mean no results found? There we go. Okay, so you can see how I'm going to be graded. Things like meets word count requirements, identifies the main argument, thesis, and all the main ideas. Summary accurately represents the content of the article. Okay. All paragraphs have a clear and specific topic sentence. We didn't talk about that. But if you look at the example, did I close it again? No, here it is. No, that's my lecture. Oh, I do think I had it open. It's just in another page. Okay, so if we look at Jane Smith's summary, every paragraph has its own topic. Okay, so here it's all about how Murray begins by addressing how the show is effective in dodging some of the failings of the traditional sitcom. Okay, so everything in this paragraph is about that. And then there's a clear transition from this. He, meaning Murray, the author, shifts to the important role women play. So this is all about women, or it should be. Okay, yeah, see, women. This is what that means in the rubric. Okay, that there are clear topic sentences. In other words, we're discussing one topic per paragraph instead of writing one ginormous paragraph. Yeah, nobody's asked that yet, but your summary should not be one ginormous paragraph. Okay, it should be spread over several paragraphs. Anyway, you can read the rubric on your own. There are even specifics about how the document should be in 12-point Times New Roman with double spaced. That's also included in the main instructions here. Okay, use Microsoft Word, 300 to 400 words, 12-point font, double spaced, how to label it. But again, you can read that on your own. Listen, I think I've gone through the gist of what I want to. I think the other slides were just, APA. Okay, if you're watching this either live or in the recording and you can take a screenshot of this, do so, because this is what you have to do. Oh, here's the final thing I'll do about APA. Okay. And then I swear it will be finished because we're exactly at the hour mark because I started at 5 after. So I have a sample article open because Taylor Swift has a new album out because I like Taylor Swift. Here's an article from Spin Magazine. Taylor Swift's lover shines in its quietest moments. Written by Jordan Sargent, August 26, 2019. I have everything I need for an APA citation. Let me show you how easy it is. So I'm going to copy the title because that's just easier. The guy's name is Jordan Sargent. Okay, so here, I'll just do it here. Okay, it should be double spaced. So we'll change it to 1.0 to 2.0. But anyway, so last name of the author, Sargent, comma, first initial. Oh, his first initial is a J. The J doesn't work on my keyboard. Do I still have? I probably don't. No, it's no J in there. We'll pretend his name starts with an L, Larry. Period. So last name, comma, first initial, then the date. If they give you a full date, like here it's August 26, 2019, use the full date. But it has to follow this format. Year first, 2019, comma, month spelled out completely, August 26. If only a year is provided, just put the year and not the full date. Okay. Then the title of the article itself. Now, if it does this to you in Microsoft Word, all you have to do is click on the clipboard, click Match Destination Formatting, and boom. Although that does not look like the same. We'll just change it all to Times New Roman. Okay. Now, good, Christopher. If no date is provided at all, you put the abbreviation N period D period like that. So it shouldn't be uppercase, Christopher, like you have in the chat. It should be like that, lowercase. But this one does have a date, so let me get rid of that. Now, the only thing that students always get confused about is that it's not MLA. Okay, so the T in Taylor will be capitalized because it's a proper name, it's her name. The S in Swift would be capitalized again because it's her name. The L in Lover would be capitalized because it's the name of the album. Okay, they're all proper nouns. But the S in Shine would be lowercase, 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 Lowercase. Why? Because APA has this goofy rule that when you present the article title or the book title or whatever it is that you're citing, you capitalize just as you would a regular sentence. So in a regular sentence, Taylor Swift's name would obviously be capitalized. So would the title of her album, but not these words. So because most people are familiar with MLA, they want to capitalize every major word. So the S in shines, but no. And if you look back on the example here, look, repeated antibiotic use alters gut's composition of beneficial blah, blah, blah. Right? So only the R gets capitalized because you would capitalize that because the first word of a sentence would receive initial capitalization. But everything else is lowercase. It looks weird, super weird, but that's APA. Weird. The final thing we need to do is just take the URL and put the words retrieved from. Retrieved from there. Match destination formatting. I hate it when this is highlighted, so I'm going to say, where is it? Hyperlink. Remove hyperlink. I don't know why it's forced it to single spacing. It should be double. And finally, and is this captured here? Yeah. So the first line does not get indented, but if it goes to the second or third line, those lines do get indented. So all you have to do is place your cursor here and drag the little hourglass over 1/2 inch. And of course, it didn't do it. Probably because it's not truly double spaced. Hold on. Let me try it now. Okay, so Microsoft Word doesn't like me today. What the heck is going on? Do I have this truly double spaced? Yes, it's double spaced. It should be following. Put the cursor in front. I should be able to, because if I do this, it drags everything. Okay, usually I have to drag only the bottom half of the hourglass, but okay, you have to get it to look like this. Okay, so either take a screenshot of this and imitate, or take a screenshot of this and imitate. But that's it. It's so simple. Author's name, date, title of the article, retrieve from, and then the URL address. That's it. So easy. So APA is not that difficult. That's one of the changes that we've made as well. It used to be much more. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some APA additional things we'll learn, but APA used to be much more intense in this class, and we're trying to make it less so. Christopher S. says, Lover italicized because it's the album title. Yeah, it is. Okay. We're at the end of the lecture. I'm going to spend some time talk about when you should italicize and not. But if you're not interested in hearing that, you are free to. That hyperlink keeps appearing. You are allowed to go and enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you so much for attending. Come on, remove hyperlink. Okay, Microsoft Word doesn't like me today. But anyway, for anybody who's curious, you italicize big things or whole things, such as books, newspapers, magazines, plays, like a stage play, television shows, video games, CDs. I'm going to put etc. because the list can keep going. You put in quotes smaller things or parts of those whole things. Now, what does that mean? A book gets italicized, but a specific essay or article or poem that could be contained in a book, that goes inside quotation marks. A television show would be italicized, but a television TV episode would be put in quotation marks. Same thing for short stories, songs. Okay. Chapter would be, I'm pretty sure, quotation marks, because a chapter is within a book, so it's a part of a whole. So I always like to use the example of, like, my favorite Star Trek The Next Generation episode is Inner Light. Okay, so Inner Light is the episode of the television show, right? This is the whole thing, the television show. This is the part of that whole, the episode. If you can just remember that, like big things, whole things, get italicized. The smaller things that are parts of those holes, right? Taylor Swift's song Shake It Off from her album 1989 is my fave. Okay, so again, right? The song is a part of the album. So the album gets italicized. The thing that's a part of that album gets put in quotation marks. So if you're ever confused, if you just think in terms of big or whole things versus small and parts of those whole things, you'll never be confused about what gets italicized, what goes in quotation marks. Um, yeah, I haven't seen that Dwayne Johnson thing. I am the least knowledgeable person about pop culture. I listen to a ton of music, including contemporary music, but I am the least knowledgeable about who's having a Twitter war, which YouTube video is currently on fire. Um, like, I know nothing about that stuff. Anyway, questions, comments about the class as a whole, about the assignments this week. It looks like we've had a couple people who've joined us after the lecture started, so you may have to watch the recording to see the parts that we missed. I apologize, we've gone a little bit longer, about 10 minutes longer. I do try to keep things to an hour or less, so I apologize for that, but I think we made some good progress. If you're comfortable with what we've gone over, again, you are free to leave. I'll hang out, though, for a little bit to answer questions if people have them, but otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. for more. Thanks so much for attending. Again, people who attend or who watch these lectures, the recordings, they tend to do much better in this class, so thanks for attending. Thanks to all those who are watching at home. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I'll hang out a bit, but it doesn't look like too many people are hitting me with questions. So, to those watching at home, thank you. I'm stopping the recording now.